Welcome back to GN Sports, brought to you by Blue Cross Blue Shield. It doesn't always happen this way, but this year the Stanley Cup will feature the best teams in hockey in the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Colorado Avalanche. The Lightning trying to be the first three-peat champion since the Islanders back in 1982. The Avalanche playing for their first cup since 2001. Game 1 begins tomorrow night in Colorado. Both teams know this may be one of the most competitive finals in years.
We have to want this. Like we've worked so hard to build. Julian's built this team. I coach this team. These players play, but it's taken so much to get here. Why not keep going? And that's been a big theme for ours, is putting our stamp in history.
It's exciting. I'm glad we're playing Tampa. You know, we're playing the best. There's no Cinderella story or anything. Two of the best teams in the league going at it, and really excited for this challenge. And it's going to be very, very difficult, but I believe in this group, and we all believe in each other, and hopefully we can get this done.
Joining us now live for a version of Gimme 5 is Joe Brand, the pre, post, and intermission host for the Blackhawks on WGN Radio. Listen, we got the Avs and the Lightning, the last two teams standing for the Stanley Cup. The Avalanche, so they're coming in hot, Joe. They swept the Oilers in the Western Conference Final. And how much of a factor do you think that some of that momentum that they have goes into as they come into this series?
Well, it's going to either be a lot of momentum or that rest could turn into rust. That's one thing that might be a factor of this entire Stanley Cup Final. The Tampa Bay Lightning have faced a lot of adversity, so they're kind of riding on a high right now. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them come out of the gate and, really take force of the Stanley Cup Final early on.
We just heard them talk about the fact that is hockey's best right now. How competitive will this series be? Is it going the distance?
That's the cool thing, Caitlin, because all the experts, everyone breaking down this series is expecting it to go at least 6 games and probably 7. So much that they are having a very difficult time finding a winner, and I'm kind of in that boat as well. Tampa Bay is a strong, fast team. Colorado, a strong, fast team. Both teams with a lot of success. But again, it goes back to that adversity that Tampa Bay has had to beat recently. And now Colorado, they've been one of the favorite Stanley Cups from the beginning of the year.
All right, Joe. The Avs a little younger. The Lightning, they got a little bit more baggage on them, being a little bit older. But they do, when you look at it, goaltending and also as well the experience. That bodes well for this series.
Yeah, Andrei Vasilevsky is arguably the most important goaltender in the entire NHL. And the other thing about the Tampa Bay Lightning is they're very deep, but it looks like they might be getting Braden Point back. Now that's huge for their power play, that's huge for their depth, and that's going to come into play really big in this Colorado series because the Avalanche are a very deep team too. They're dealing with some injuries though, with Nazem Kadri being out. He's their third best scorer. He's got the most assists, so that is going to play a factor, even if it doesn't play a factor in Game 1, because like I said, everyone is expecting this series to go 7 games.
Now, when Blackhawks fans are sitting home watching this series play out, trying not to cry tears, are they thinking to themselves, what is next for the Blackhawks? What is this team going to look like? What is the coaching staff going to look like? There are 1,000,001 questions. Where do they start? Where do you think are going to be some of the biggest storylines heading into this offseason?
It's definitely a long-term plan, and the beginning of it has to be with the head coach. But now, all of a sudden, these rumors coming up about Alex DeBrincat possibly being on the move, that's a big decision for Kyle Davidson, the new general manager for the Blackhawks. There's the conversation of Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane, but Alex DeBrincat is also a very difficult decision too. That might be the most difficult decision for Kyle Davidson moving forward.
I was thinking about that because when you look at the Cat and what he means to his organization, man, still young too, and what he brings to the table. But Kane and Toews, though, I know you look at them, they're heading into the last year of their contract, no movement clauses for both of them. What is their future, you think? I mean, because more people are talking about, you start seeing it swirl around. I know they're only rumors, but both guys, do they really want to be a part of a rebuild?
It's difficult to say. Both guys have basically said all they care about right now is the present. And if you're an athlete, I feel like you have to have that mentality. You have to have that mindset. Because if you don't, you're going to be looking too far ahead and you're not going to be focused on what's going on right now at the moment. Patrick Kane, doing Patrick Kane-like things last season. Jonathan Toews, not so much. So for right now, it seems like Patrick Kane is more the plausible guy for this Blackhawks team moving forward into the future. But it is going to be a very difficult decision, and you just kind of don't know what's going to happen, if it's going to be an off-season situation or if it is going to be a trade deadline situation.
And what about coaching? Because there's a lot of names flying around right now. You even talk about their interim coach. Is he going to get the position? They could go a number of different ways. And when you see coaches in hockey going to other teams that were rumored to be going maybe to the Blackhawks, how does that all shake itself out? And how much does that matter when you're talking about keeping guys like Toews and Kane? Will they just wipe the slate clean from everybody from the top down?
I like Derek King. I like the idea of him continuing to be the head coach for the Chicago Blackhawks for multiple reasons. He just worked very well with that group. He's able to communicate with players. And this is a long-term plan for the Hawks right now. Will Derek King be the head coach the next time the Hawks raise a Stanley Cup? That's tough to say. But for right now, for the short term, can you have a guy that can develop a good culture, to instill a lot of good communication throughout the players? I would like to think so. He's great with the media. You guys need to have him here on this set at one point, because he's fantastic to talk to.
Joe, I love him. I love him to death, man. There's something special about him, especially when he took over as interim coach. You could see the juices were flowing a little bit. As the season went on, Joe, it seemed like things were falling on deaf ears with some of the guys inside of that locker room. That scares me just a little bit as a Hawks fan.
Yes and no. It was just a very difficult year for this Hawks team. I mean, they were going through so many, I guess you can call them growing pains, but there were so many intangibles going on. Obviously, the off-ice stuff played a factor. That shook up the front office. That shook up the coaching situation. So there were so many things going on that year. I thought that Derek King did a pretty good job of being able to stabilize it. As soon as he came in, they went on a winning streak, and that was fantastic. Then things started to level out, but he holds players accountable. And once that started to happen, I think Riley Stillman had the quote, "This is a little new in this Blackhawks dressing room not right now, being held accountable." So kind of a shot at Jeremy Colliton. I did like Jeremy Colliton. I think he was kind of tasked with a very difficult situation of following Joel Quenneville, but I think Derek King is the right person to kind of stabilize the locker room, and again, especially in a year where this team is looking to just develop a good culture.
Joe, Chicago sports fans are going to have to practice some patience, because there's a few teams in this city, in this market, that are going through a rebuild. Even though they don't want to call it a rebuild, they're going through a rebuild. How much patience are Blackhawks fans going to have watching this team kind of rebuild now?
You got to look at maybe 3, 4, dare I say 5 years. Hockey's different. It's not the NFL. It can't be switched in 1 year. It's not Major League Baseball where you're looking at least 5 seasons. Here's the biggest thing. Kyle Davidson has declared a rebuild. So the most important thing for this organization moving forward is the draft evaluation and the player development. He seems to have total control and total faith in his entire staff. It's great to make all these moves. The Brandon Hagel trade seems to be great. If Alex DeBrincat gets moved, I'm sure it's only because it's too good of an offer for Kyle Davidson to not turn down. But then it's going to come down to who the Blackhawks draft, who they develop, and how good they're going to be.
All right, got to ask you, who's going to be hoisting the Stanley Cup?
Again, I'm going back and forth just like everyone else. I think 7 games.
Lightning, go ahead.
I'll go with the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Ooh,
Yes,
the
sir.
three-peat.
Three-peat. Hey, Joe, we appreciate you for joining us, man.
Hey, this is really cool. I grew up watching this station, and to be on here right now, dream come true. So really appreciate you guys having me, and let me know if I can ever do it again.
Pleasure to have you, Joe, for sure. Coming up, what are the odds an American will win this week's U.S. Open? Your pick is ahead, and the Running Wild, the Cardinals and Pirates with a What's Good rundown. Yeah, you're going to have to see this. We're back right after this.